Welcome into Believing Commanders. It's a special what date is it? A Friday matinee episode. I like
Yeah.
this AAA. A Friday matinee episode of Believing Commanders. Obviously, rosters are shifting around a little bit, so we thought we'd get another one in before the long weekend. How are you doing, my friend?
Man, I'm good. You see, I got my floral outfit on. So
There you go.
this is one of those little the outfits, a little short set that you're supposed to wear to the beach. And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get to take a beach trip. But I was like, I'm gonna wear my outfit today though. So I'm wearing my shirt, my little Shein shirt that the wife got from me, and
I
I'm
like it.
enjoying it. I am enjoying it. How are
Yeah,
you
you,
doing, my friend?
I'm good. Even if you're not at the beach, if you act like it feels a little bit better. But yeah, a long weekend coming up. A bunch of college football this weekend, so I'm excited about that. You can bet on some of those games too with our buddies at Bet Online. I know you'll talk to us about that in a second. But yeah, I'm just glad it's the weekend, and that means we're one day closer to the Commanders playing the Jags.
That is true, and you can check the lines for those college games for that Washington Jacksonville game on Bet Online. It is the fastest and the easiest way to wager on all of your favorite sports contests and events with first to market odds and lines. Find reviews and news for every league, including the Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and
All of
even
them.
golf, all that esports. I want to see if they have a Madden bet going on there. I'd like
There you
that one.
go.
See, Bet Online, it continues to be the top online resource for all your sports information, from live in-game betting, props, and futures. So head online to Bet Online today, or use your mobile device to join today and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code Believe50 to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts, where the announcements are going on. Bet Online, go head on over there, guys. Make yourself a couple of wagers responsibly, of course, but go
I
do
know. I'm in an undisclosed location and getting hit with announcements in the middle of that. So yeah,
it.
sorry about that. But yeah, go to Bet Online and put in your bets. Football is the best time to do that. So many things that you can look at there. As I mentioned, roster moves. We said, it wasn't the final 53-man roster, right? It was the initial 53-man roster that came out on Tuesday. And obviously the Commanders, if you've been keeping up, have made a couple of moves, have shaken a couple things around. I think the biggest thing is Brian Robinson Jr. was placed on the non-football injury list, so he will miss at least the first 4 games. Give him about a month to get some recovery in and see where he's at with that knee, about October or so. I think that move is not that surprising. Anthony, what were your thoughts on that when you heard that? I think it kind of made sense.
It's a smart thing to do. I mean, hey, the guy just got shot, so you might as well give him an opportunity to heal up. And
Mm-hmm.
it's long season, right? It's a long season. You want to think longevity. You want to think down the line. So it's good to have him in the roster. Good to have him in the building and give him some time to get back. And there's no rush. So I think it's a smart move.
I didn't tell you this, Anthony, but I posted Believe's video of us talking about Brian Robinson to my Instagram, and he replied to it with a fire emoji. So I thought that was kind of cool. I know it's just an emoji. I know it's just Instagram, but you got to think that he's in an okay spot, especially given his last week. I mean, crazy. We talked about it a little bit the other day, but just so glad that he's okay and that there's a chance that he could play football in the near future. That is just amazing. So he'll be out for at least a month, and then they'll be able to reevaluate everything and make some moves from there. So in the meantime, some other moves that they made, they released David Mayo. They brought him back, along with bringing back another familiar face in John Bostic, who got released by the Saints, I believe. He is back in the mix at the linebacker position. Your thoughts on this? I feel it's a little underwhelming, but what are your thoughts on bringing Bostic back into the fold?
I think it's going to be the best thing that you can do. I mean, try to get somebody that's familiar with the system that can be a plug and play scenario. I mean, the team hasn't gone and tried to really extend themselves to try to trade for somebody. And, that whole Roquan Smith situation was getting a little squirrely, where it seems like, I think Ryan Day is like, I'm not playing that game with you. So that ended up being a nothing burger, pretty much, to quote Mr. Wonderful. But right now you got to just say, okay, hey, this is what the team is. This is who we have at linebacker, and let's just go move forward with this. All right, now you get a little bit of depth by bringing a few extra bodies, so hopefully they'll be able to make an impact, and as a group can rise up and make everybody better. But individually, I don't think you added a playmaker that's just going to just change the entire linebacker room.
Yeah, and I think we talked about that. I don't think any of these moves here, as you're shaking up before the start of the season, I don't think those are the moves that you're going to get the stud. That's what free agency and the draft are for. And then another thing, Washington doesn't play a whole lot with more than 3 linebackers. A lot of times they only have 1 linebacker out there. So John Bostic, hopefully if Jamin Davis and Cole Holcomb can hold it down. John Bostic is strictly a depth guy, and it doesn't hurt to have a guy that knows the system out there. One name I do want to bring up, and I'm kind of intrigued by, was Blake Martinez being released by the Giants. I don't know the situation. I think he's coming off an injury there. There are always warts on guys at this time of the year if they're getting released. But he's a guy that just tackles the ball carrier, gets after it. How familiar are you with Blake Martinez, and could you see them bringing him in, maybe in a month or so or a couple weeks? What are your thoughts about that?
I've seen his name and seen him make some plays and throughout the league. And I know that he's a solid player. I mean, to say that I have an extensive dossier on the guy, I can't say I have that. But he's a good player. Anytime you see a linebacker that has some years, some experience on their body that's available, you're gonna have to look at it, especially the position that this team is in. So you can't just sit there and bypass everybody. Like this is a guy who's played in this league. He knows what it takes to be successful. He'll be able to get acclimated to the system quickly, simply because he's played before. Some of the verbiage may be different, but whenever you tell him A gap, B gap, C gap, that's going to be easy.
Hey, go hit the guy with the ball. I think that would be the biggest thing. The one thing is he's been around a little bit, but he is still under 30. He's 28, so he's just a name. I know I'm the same way. I don't know a whole lot about him, but I know I've heard his name, and I know it's at a position that Washington could use a couple guys. So I'll keep my eye on him and see where he ends up.
Is he out of Wisconsin?
I think Wisconsin or Nebraska. I get them mixed up with the red and white.
Either way, both of them bring out hellified linebackers. I mean,
that's right.
Players that come out of those two schools. So if you're going to go with that pedigree, you at least know you have somebody who's got some oomph to him.
Okay, he went to Stanford. I'm thinking of somebody else too, because I thought.
What are we thinking about? It's still a red and white mix. Now I know they're going to get on this Greg Camarillo show.
Yeah,
I'm get Greg on the show. We got to get Cam on the show.
Yeah, for sure. Well, anyway, so we'll see if they make the move there. A couple more moves that they did make, and these guys, I think, whether we like it or not, might have an impact, maybe not necessarily on defense, but on special teams. We know that initially the Commanders only had 4 cornerbacks on their 53-man roster. Pretty light there. They did go out and they claimed Tariq Castro-Fields on waivers off the 49ers. And just based on his name alone, I need to get this jersey, but Rashad Wild Goose off waivers from the Jets. So 2 cornerbacks who, great names, have flashed a little bit in the preseason. And these guys might be out there at least for special teams, and we might see them on the field for the Commanders.
Those guys that have made impacts for some teams in the preseason and have done some special team work, they usually show up and they truly acclimate very quickly. The special teams coaches know exactly where they're going to fit, and they're going to work with them to get those guys up to speed right away. I mean, it's really amazing to see how special teams guys generally can go from team to team and not need that much time to get acclimated, because the same thing comes down to effort and the willingness to get out there and work your tail off. So those 2 guys stepping in, definitely needed when you only have 4 cornerbacks. That is not the way to go. You get a quarter into the game and now you got to sub out already. Yeah. So you'll have some guys that will be able to play special teams. That'll take a big load off of the top 4. You won't have to worry about St. Juice getting out there. You talk about names. We got a Tariq Castro-Fields. You got a Benjamin St. Juice, and now you got a Wild Goose in the back in the secondary. So there's some hellified names back there in the secondary.
Yeah, if they can make a couple of plays, there's some T-shirts, there's some branding there that could certainly happen for this Commanders defense. So I'm going to call him TCF, Tariq Castro Fields. TCF was drafted this year. It seemed like the 49ers kind of liked him, and he made a couple of plays in the preseason. It'll be interesting to see what he brings. Rashad Wildgoose was drafted last year. So 4 of your 6 corners, including Benjamin St. Juste and Christian Holmes, 4 of your 6 corners were either drafted in the draft last year or the draft this year. So a lot of young guys, inexperienced in that secondary. It seems like there's some upside to these guys, but you hope that Kendall Fuller and William Jackson hold it down, and Benjamin St. Juste as well. You hope that you don't have to tap into these guys. But that's some quick baptism by fire if these guys are out there at any point during the year. But I like having young guys, and you never know what you can get from some of these guys.
Young players are dangerous, man. They're dangerous because they don't know any better. They don't know no better. They don't know, that they may be going against like one of the top players in the league. Yeah, you may know them by name, but like they just don't know, or they don't care, right? They feel like I can take this guy. So having some young, hungry players, I mean, that's a good thing. It's going to keep your energy up, right? Those guys will be able to fly around, and yeah, it will be some baptism by fire, like you said. But having at least you get them, after training camp, or at least a year in, so they've played in the game. They've been a part of some NFL rosters, and they have some experience, and it'll make it easy for them to show them and start to make some plays in the burgundy and gold.
Yeah, absolutely. So that kind of rounded out the 53-man roster. A lot of familiar names made it back to the practice squad. In fact, I think most, if not all of the guys were names that were in camp. Troy Apke made it back onto the practice squad, Khaleke Hudson, Jarrett Patterson. So a couple of names that made it onto the practice squad. We know that a couple of those guys get elevated during game week. So that'll just be something to keep an eye on. But right now it looks like, barring anything crazy in these next few days, that this is looking like your 53-man roster that's going to go into FedEx Field and face the Jaguars. Just real quick, I'm putting you on the spot. How are you feeling about this 53? And is there any particular position that makes you a little more nervous than others?
I think the same 2 positions that have you nervous or give you a little bit of a pause are the same ones that you've been paying attention to all camp. That's, linebacker and tight end. It's where you're a little bit thin. But outside of that, I think everything is what you've expected it to be. Offense is moving in the right direction as a unit. I think it's, like I said before, I think it's going to take 5-6 weeks before those guys are actually rolling and looking like it's just a dangerous unit. And on the defensive side, the D-line looks good. They have a lot of depth, but you still have some people that are on the shelf that you get to welcome back, hopefully in a few weeks, midpoint of the season or so. So it'd be interesting to see. And then the secondary, you just got to see what they can do in live action, real games, not preseason games.
Absolutely. And you mentioned the secondary. The one other piece of news that was a little interesting, a little nerve-wracking this week, Cam Curl had his arm in a sling. I think I saw a picture where he might have had a cast on too. That makes me a little nervous a week and a half out from your opening game. Hopefully it's, obviously a sling and a cast are serious, but hopefully it's nothing too serious, and he's able to get out there for week 1.
But at least he's on defense, so they could make it.
Good point.
They could wrap it up, and he could have the Michelin Man hand, and just walk around and just club people, So he could still play. Fortunately, he won't need that hand to catch passes on offense, right? So it'd be different if he's a receiver with that situation. So I think he should be able to get out there. I mean, it's first game of the year, man. Like, come on, you go put some padding on that cast and let's go.
Rub some dirt on it. But you're right. That could be like a forced fumble club. Just wrap it up as much as you can and just punch the ball out. Peanut Tillman style there. But yeah, it sounds like Ron didn't address it. I don't think he has to address injuries until game week. So maybe when we're doing our preview episode next week, we have a little bit clearer of a picture if it's a big deal or not. Hopefully it's just precautionary, just kind of keeping everything in place, but we'll definitely keep an eye on that because I think Cam Curl's I think he's due for a big season. I think he's going to be all over the place. I think with some of the depth that they have, they're going to be able to move him around a little bit, and I'm excited to see what he can do. So hopefully he's fully healthy and ready to go once these games matter. Next week, I can't believe we're saying that. Next week, 9 days away. Sonny Jurgensen, 9 days away from kickoff. So speaking of history and speaking of the past, the team announced 10 additions to their 90 greatest. We talked about this a while back. Some of your former teammates were on the list, and a few of them made the list. We were going through it before the show started, and 6 of the 10 guys are guys that you played with. Some really big names on there. I thought it was really cool. I think it's just really cool that they do this already, and it's neat that they continued it, and a pretty cool way to welcome in the Commanders era with 10 solid players to add to that list.
Yeah, I can tell you, those guys, congratulations to all 10.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, congratulations to those 6, because must have been that Armstrong juju that rubbed off on you, that pushed you over the edge.
That's right.
No, but seriously, I mean, that's such an honor to be included on the greatest list of anything. But you think about the history of this organization, and it was a lot of great names on there. And I can tell you, I'm not very upset. I'm not upset with who made it on this. I did think my guy Mike Sellers was going to make it. But if they have another vote and they throw him to the 100, I think he'll definitely have to be on that list.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can see on the screen there, Champ Bailey, Chris Cooley, Stephen Davis, London Fletcher, Darryl Grant, DeAngelo Hall, Ryan Kerrigan, Santana Moss, Larry Peccatiello, and Trent Williams. A lot of those are kind of recent guys, and they are all studs out there. So why don't you tell us about the guys that you did play with? Obviously, you didn't get the chance to play with Champ Bailey, Stephen Davis, Darryl Grant, or get coached by the great Larry Peccatiello, which a lot of fans know a lot about those guys. But tell us about some of those guys that you did play with and what makes them so special and special enough to be on this list.
Man, I'm starting out with DeAngelo Hall.
Okay, all right.
Now I'll say no particular order. It's just how I lined them up. But you got to start with DeAngelo Hall. He's definitely a big play guy. I mean, he is. I remember first showing up at Redskins Park and lined up across from him. And he had Santana Moss watching, Antoine Randall watching, and going across from DeAngelo Hall. I was in like little football heaven, but I quickly realized that anything within his catch radius and his reach was probably going to be an interception. Like if you weren't sound on your technique, or if he'd even guess, he would just guess right. He'd be like, I kind of got a feeling that they're going to sit out, and he would make that interception. I mean, one of the most amazing, performances in the game, that 4 interception game against the Bears. I remember being on the sideline for that. I mean, that was amazing to just watch him continually grab a football out of the air. It was amazing. So congratulations to D Hall.
Yeah, he had 4 catches that day. Might have been more than any of the Bears did. He was Jay Cutler's favorite target. And the cool thing about DeAngelo Hall being down here in Atlanta, he kind of rubbed some people the wrong way with the Falcons, got traded to the Raiders, and I don't even think he lasted a full season before he ended up in Washington. So the fact that he was able to kind of reclaim his career and get it going again in Washington just speaks volumes about how good of a player he was. He kind of just had a couple different eras, and it's impressive that he was able to do what he did in Washington. And you're right, he's just a playmaker, and he was a guy that on defense that probably had the ball in his hands as often as some offensive players. So he was always fun to watch and always a character, and just a guy that you love to have on your team but hated to play against.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't play ball with this guy, but you got to give love to another DB on this list. You got Champ Bailey. I feel like, obviously Darryl Green was the cornerback of the early 90s, and then kind of going into the mid-90s. But Champ Bailey showed up. I think Champ Bailey was the lockdown corner for Washington when I was growing up, before he went to Denver. But Champ Bailey was that guy. and he's just a really good player. And just always respected what he was able to do. He was so consistent. So I definitely enjoyed watching him play, and glad to see he's on this list. I'm going to go on to the next one. Chris Cooley. What is this?
Yeah.
What they call him? Commander. What they call him?
Yeah. Chaos Commander.
Yeah. Something
Chaos
like
Command.
that.
Something like that.
Yeah. Something along those lines. And that's very true. Chris Cooley. I think him and like Dallas Clark were in that same time period where they changed the name of that like H-back. That tight end / fullback / we don't know what to do with you, but
wearing numbers in the 40s.
Yeah, wearing these 40s numbers, and he's able to get open. He's able to make plays, and he does it awkwardly as hell. I mean, it was never like man, that was a real pretty route. That was just it was just funny looking. But Chris always found a way to get open, and he's a good artist too. He had a art studio up there in I want to say in like Leesburg.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I'll have to check that out.
He would make mugs. I don't know if it's there any longer, but he would make like coffee mugs and sculptures and stuff like that. So
and I just remember iconic touchdowns, especially in a couple of those playoff runs with Joe Gibbs 2.0. He just was always at the center of those, and he was just a solid. You're right. He was kind of like an H-back tight end, just kind of used as whatever they needed him to, and he just did it well.
Another pass catcher. This is my big bro right here, man. Santana Moss. Gotta give love to him. That's the guy. I followed everything that he was doing. I just watched how he worked. But the Cowboy Killer himself.
That's right.
You would just watch him work, and you would just sit back in amazement and be like, man, this guy just, he's old, at that time. But it's like, man, he's steady getting open. He's been so consistent. You don't see his game fall off. That he was just able to keep going time and time again. So Santana Moss, much love. I voted for him. I know I voted for him.
Oh yeah, he is one of my favorite skin players of all time. That trade with Lavernius Coles, who's a solid receiver in his own, but I think that Washington got the better end of that deal. You're right, Cowboy Killer. There are so many iconic plays that he had over the years. Jaguars beating them in overtime back in like 06 or so. He just does a little bit of everything. And I love as a fellow short guy, he just played way taller than he was. He would go up and get the ball. He was never afraid to do that. Kind of reminds me. I feel like Terry McLaurin's kind of like that. Plays bigger than he is. Love Santana Moss, and you can just throw on a couple of his highlights and just be blown away with what he was able to do. I love that guy, and he's one of my tip-top guys that I've followed over the years.
That is all facts. Recently retired Ryan Kerrigan, all-time leader in sacks. I mean, you kind of got to respect that. We spoke about him a couple weeks back. I mean, great player. He did it the right way. And he's probably going to be joining that coaching staff. I don't have no sources, but I just got a feeling that he's just going to be hanging around the game. It's hard to leave the game whenever you hang it up. So to have the opportunity to kind of get right back into it and be as close to it as possible, I think he's going to take advantage and thrive. So congrats to him.
Yeah, we've seen him like shadowing or interning or whatever they're calling it. I think it's just a matter of time till he's doing something. Hopefully it's here, but definitely coaching somewhere. He's solid. He did everything right. Did it by the book. Just technically sound. Just really love what he was able to do, and he just solidly put together good year after good year after good year, and he absolutely needs to be on there, and I'm glad he is.
Stephen Davis is in that Champ Bailey time. Really, really good running back. Really, I mean, I think of that time, Stephen Davis, Sean Alexander, Jamal Lewis, a lot of just big running backs that were going to make you pay for tackling them every single day. So Stephen Davis was a good running back for Washington. So congrats to him as well.
Again, a non-traditional running back number 2, 48, and you see that 48 just run you over. Doesn't look good, but it probably doesn't feel good either. So he was solid, and then went on to Carolina and still had a great career after Washington. Went to the Super Bowl with them. Stephen Davis was the man. It was just an absolute bruiser.
Now we go next here to a guy who got to get another jacket. He got to put him in there, the Iron Man. London Fletcher, second all time in tackles in the NFL.
Yep.
5'9" out of John Carroll. He's got a head the size of a watermelon. But he would hit you, and you were definitely going to go backwards. So much respect for London Fletcher, the way he worked, the way he prepared the mental side of the game. Like I noticed, I think it was probably my first year, and halfway through, like camp, I look over, I see Kyle Shanahan talking with London, and London is just picking his brain. He's trying to find out what are you thinking? What is the quarterback thinking in these spots? And you would literally break the huddle, and he would call the play. You hear that about
Incredible.
The greatest linebackers, like Luke Kuechly, London Fletcher, Ray Lewis's, Patrick Willis. Those guys would be so well prepared that right when you break the huddle, like, oh, screen to the right, and then on offense, you're like,
yeah, he's right.
No, you're like, no, screen to the right, and you're like, hey man, what a screen to the right. What do we do?
we gotta switch that.
Right? You look at coach, and coach is like, run it. And you're like, he just called the play.
He's standing there already.
Yeah, you snap it, and he's already over there. And you're like, we told you, coach. And like, why did you block it? Because he called the play. As we could ready, break, screen right. Like, what? I don't know what we did, right?
Yep.
So London was amazing. Hit everything and hit him cold in the tracks.
Yep, just made plays all over the place, and now he's part of the broadcast team with the Commanders, which is pretty cool. So it's cool to see him come full circle. And another guy that didn't start with Washington and still made a huge impact in his time there, and he really was like kind of the cornerstone leader of that defense for so many years.
Yeah, he was one guy that you knew was going to be there. You knew he was going to be there. He was going to show up. He was going to be ready. There's another couple of guys. Larry Peccatiello. I can admit I didn't know who he was. I didn't know his name. Yeah. But legendary coach from back in those Super Bowl years for Washington. So congrats to him.
3 Super Bowl rings, ran that defense. So
there you go. Him up there working with Richie Pettibone. So legendary player, legendary coach, I should say. Darryl Grant, another one I could say I didn't know.
Yeah,
I didn't know. So.
Yeah, but before my time, but apparently he had a big pick six in the 1982 NFC Championship game against those stinking Cowboys, and then he had 27 sacks and 2 interceptions in his career. So won 2 Super Bowls with the team. So he definitely deserves to be in there. Big number 77. I like that. I'm all about the jersey numbers if you can't tell, but I love that. When a 77's coming after you on defense, that's a good sign.
The big 77, that's trouble. The one thing I've noticed so far from this list is if you put up good memories against Dallas,
that's right.
You got a chance to get on here.
Old, new, whatever generation, as long as you do something against Dallas, you're all right in our books.
The last one, you got to put the silver back on there. Trent Williams, well-deserved. I mean, the ending was a little, a little sour, a little bittersweet on the way out. But, I mean, you got to pay respect. And if you're going to be real, you're going to give the man respect for what he's done and what he's been able to achieve, not only with Washington, but beyond.
Yeah.
So, congrats to Trent Williams. But literally, one of the most athletic guys. And at that, everybody's like, what do you mean athletic? Like, he's fast. You see him, like, pulling and, like, knocking over DBs. I've seen the man, like, windmill dunk, like, from a standing, before there was a bubble at Redskins Park. We used to have to go to, like, the local gym.
Okay.
And we would go into their courts, and like he literally took a basketball and then boom, and you're like, okay, 335, like that easy, and some J's, just real cool, real calm. Great dude though.
What did it for me was obviously he was a stud for years and years, and then there was the off season where the Redskins brought in Adrian Peterson. So we're going on like 3-4 years ago now, and they were showing some workout videos, and those guys were teammates, I think, at Oklahoma, or at least knew each other through the Oklahoma program. Yeah. And Trent Williams was step for step with Adrian Peterson. I'm like, how is this guy that big and able to move that quick along with one of the greatest running backs of all time? I mean, just time and time again, he just shows you something that is unbelievable. I'm thankful for what he did in Washington, and you could honestly say that he was kind of the start of ushering in this new era. And so, 20, 30 years from now, he's going to be remembered as an all-time great as a Redskin, and it looks like he's going to be an all-time great as a 49er too. Guy's just a beast, and I'm just glad that I got to watch him on my favorite team at one point and continue to watch him now. So really cool that Washington has done this over the years, up to 90 greatest players, and so these 10 added to the list. Well-deserving, and it'll be exciting to see in 10 years when we have the number one podcast who's added to that list as well with these guys. So really, really cool and a great memory and a great honor for this group.
Like I said, it's always good to be on somebody's greatest list. It's an honor, you know what I mean? And as many people have come through those doors and through that building and many different buildings that has been to be able to be recognized and voted on. Too.
That's right.
Voted on by the fans, voted on by everybody who's watched these guys play. It means a lot.
I think the fans did a good job. It wasn't overwhelmingly, the old generation. It wasn't overwhelmingly the new generation. There's a good mix here, and I think all these guys are deserving. And I think some of those guys that just missed the list are going to get in eventually. And I think it's a good thing that we're talking about it because it means that the team is doing something right and honoring its former players, and hopefully starting the next chapter of some greatness, the Commanders' greatness. I'm crossing my fingers. I'm hoping, and I hope it starts next Sunday against the Jaguars in FedEx Field. We are almost there. We are almost there to talking some real football.
Man, I want to throw one last I'm gonna throw a little curveball.
Okay.
You can think about it. You can think about it. Maybe you want to push it to the next show.
Okay.
Who on this roster could be in this 100 greatest?
Man,
ooh. We might have to push that to the next week. Man, we're going to push that one to next week. So if you're listening, listen in. Matter of fact, interact with us. You see it scrolling on the bottom. Follow us, Believe Commanders. Shoot us a message on Twitter. Let us know, who do you think out of this roster, this 2022 Washington Commanders roster, who's the first Commander that's going to make it on this 100 greatest Washington players list? That right there is something I want to see. I'm going to think long and hard over this next week to come up with one of those.
That's a deep tease too. So we're teasing you. You got to tune in next time. The next time we talk to you, we'll be talking about the real deal, previewing the Jaguars. So I'm excited that we were able to do this afternoon edition. I kind of like it. I feel like we're both a little more awake than usual.
That is true. I've noticed that. I thought it was just me.
we got to talk to our schedule makers and see if we can maybe work another one or two of these afternoon shows into the rotation. But
that is a bet. Oh, speaking of bet.
Oh, there you go. Nice. So
bet.
NFL is opening up Thursday. It's Rams and Bills. Could that be a Super Bowl preview? I wouldn't be opposed to laying down a bet on that. I feel like that's a good matchup. But baseball this weekend, Labor Day weekend, all kinds of stuff that you can bet on. We appreciate our guys at Bet Online. Remember, you can use our code BELIEVE50 for 50% off your first bet. So check those guys out. And as you know, college football has already started. Get all your bets in and listen to us as we give you some winners as well.
Hook 'em horns.
Okay. All right. I like it. A little bet there. Well, Anthony, it's always fun, and I can't wait till we're talking about the Commanders and their first game next week. You guys be good, and thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.
Yes, indeed. Y'all be easy.